Ghost Girl, and I'm here with you guys for another video. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about my ex-best friend's haunted house. So I had an ex-best friend that I used to hang about with years ago now. I haven't spoken about her in this channel for a very long time, but when I first started doing YouTube, I did like a few exposés of her and talking about like what a horrible person she was. But believe it or not, when we were kids there was actually a time before all that where she was quite a nice person, and before she lived in the area that she lived in when she met me, she used to live in a council house, and the land where that council house was very haunted, because apparently she stays in like the newer end of the scheme, which was kind of built in the like 60s or 70s, I want to say. It was definitely built back then, because my mum was just a little girl when they built that side of the scheme. I remember her talking about it, and I remember she used to stay in that area where the house was. Apparently, I'm not exactly sure what area of the scheme it was, because like where in the scheme it is, but I know the area quite well, and I know the history of the area quite well. Apparently years ago, and I'm talking about like medieval times by the way, just to let you know, that was mostly fields and like forest land, but there was like kind of a small kind of area houses, like about a street or two of houses where people lived underneath the kind of hills which is known as the Ballingeek area, and then you've got like the castle that sits on top. There was a few houses there, and apparently, according to legend, the history of this area round about then is a bit scratchy. There's a lot of gaps and stuff, and that's just because people back then didn't really record information. A lot of the histories and stories back then were kind of passed along by word of mouth, and some of these stories were kind of exaggerated for like entertainment purposes, and others were like dramatised and exaggerated and maybe twisted and the odd lie put in, and then some stories might have not been true at all. We don't know, because obviously we weren't around back then when these stories happened. But apparently there was a man that assaulted a child, sexually assaulted a child, and he got the villagers, because it was like a separate village from the main town at the time, and there wasn't really police or anything back then. You did have knights, I think they were called, but they weren't really police or anything. They were basically just guards that like guarded the city from like crime, and there wasn't really, there was like judges and stuff, I think, back then. Was there judges in medieval times? I'm not really sure. I think it was mostly the king or queen at the time that like decided like the law and order and what would happen to like criminals and stuff. And there wasn't like sheriffs or like a police force or really a justice system like what we have now. A lot of the times the law was taken into people's own hands, and unfortunately that's how a lot of women were wrongly executed for witchcraft, because there wasn't like a proper law system back then like what we have now. So what happened was the people broke into the guy's house and he got hung by a tree, and the tree that he got hung by is apparently was located directly inside my ex-best friend's house. And apparently before that, after that, but before the house got built, there was an orphanage on the land way back in like the 1700s that got demolished. And then years later, when after the Second World War and when all the council houses got built, and then after that in the 60s or 70s they started putting extensions on to like different schemes in council areas, and that scheme was built. Obviously we're talking about my generation, so she wouldn't have been living in the house in the 60s or 70s. This was more like the noughts, if I'm being honest. So quite a few decades after the 60s and 70s, that'll be sure. I just know that's when the houses were built. But she told me stories about that house and how haunted it was and how glad she was to like move away from that house. So she said that when from like the minute they moved in, they had like problems, like things would move, they'd hear noises, they'd hear footsteps running up and down the hallway, and she'd hear like children's laughter. And she told me that as a little girl she remembers being in the hallway and talking to a child, and then the child just disappearing and walking through a wall, and she'd be like, what on earth just happened? And she remembers that her dad, shortly after moving in, started having like serious anger management issues, and he was just getting angry and cracking up all the time and breaking things and shouting all the time. And she said her mum didn't like being in the house. Her mum was like scared of the house, and it got to the point where her mum went to see a medium, because the mum was like certain that something paranormal was going on inside the house and was really scared. And apparently the mum went to see a medium, and what the medium says was that the land was built on an orphanage, well, what used to be an orphanage, and that the kids just wanted to play with her kids, and that's why they kept hearing all the kids' noises and the laughter. And my ex best friend used to tell me that she'd go into our room and like all our toys looked like they'd been played with, and that was the kids playing with the toys. And then the medium also told her that there was a very angry spirit of a man, and he was in the closet. That's where he was like hanging around in the living room closet, and he was really angry because he'd been killed by the village people and wanted revenge on the village people. And he was like targeting the dad and was like whispering stuff to the dad and making him very angry, and he was messing with the dad's energy, and that's how the dad was getting like really angry and cracking up and smashing things, because the spirit was like getting inside his mind and inside his energy and was like showing him things. He was getting angry and throwing fits. And I remember the mum told me like her side of the story as well. Like she had to get a priest, and like they're Catholic, and they got like a Catholic priest, and he came in and cleansed all the house, and then thankfully they never had any more problems after that. But still, even then, like the mum decided that she still couldn't stay in that house, even though it had all been cleansed and stuff. She just, the memories of what happened, she just didn't want to be there anymore. So then she applied for a house in the area that I'm in, and then eventually the family moved out into a new haunted free house, and just put that memory of the haunted house behind them. So that is the story of my ex-best friend's childhood haunted home. It was a while ago that I last spoke to my ex-best friend, like a few years, and it was even more a while ago since she told my story. So trying to tell it was difficult, and I was like trying to remember everything, but I think I did a good job, and I remembered all the things that I wanted to say, and I felt like this story would be a good addition to my spooky stories that I'm telling right now. But I hope you all enjoyed this video today, my spooky children. If you did, then please like this video, comment down below, subscribe, click on the notification bell so that you'll be notified when my next video comes out. Also, don't forget to share this video, and don't forget to comment on my socials. I'm on Twitter and I'm on Patreon. If you'd follow me on Twitter and become a Patreon of mine, I'd be very grateful for that. That is everything from me today, my spooky children. I hope you have enjoyed this video today, and goodbye.